Hey guys, so I just want to try and do something a little bit different, seeing as I'm injured and I'm not riding. I was quite inspired by an Australian guy, Matt Moss's dad, had an interview, and it was a very honest interview on his coaching with some of the top riders in Australia. And it was just very honest interview. Obviously, I've had a lot of time while I've been injured to kind of watch a lot of YouTube stuff. I thought, oh, that'll be pretty cool. Obviously, I know a lot of guys within the motocross industry, especially from the 90s and stuff. So I thought I'd try to give you guys a bit of an insight into the 90s, like really cool era of motocross, and a few guys that have lived it. So my first guest is Gareth Chamberlain. So Gareth was involved with the Motovision crew, the famous videos from the 90s. His whole family traveled all the way around the world doing videos, lived abroad as well, so they got to meet a lot of the riders on a personal level as well as filming and stuff like that. So I thought he'd be an awesome first guest just to kind of get a first-hand view of that era. So let's get into some 90s motocross talk. Yeah. So what is your earliest memory of being at a motocross Grand Prix?
I don't know what year it is, and sometimes I don't know whether I remember these things or whether we just talked about them so many times over the years that then you think you remember them. But yeah, going to Farley Castle as a kid with loads of people like that, with dad and friends and other people that we raced with, and dads of other kids that were doing schoolboy motocross back in the day. We're going up to Farley and we'd all camp by the river and watch the racing. And,
yeah.
One funny story of I can't remember his name, Mr. Urine. He was leaning over the fence telling Roger Da Costa when to shift gear coming out the corners, like he would his son.
Yeah.
So that was quite funny. There's one thing that sort of sticks in my mind, but I can't like.
So that was, you were watching a GP, not actually working, filming at a GP.
No, I would have been probably about 9-10 years old.
Okay, and who would that have been? Thorpe's era?
Yeah, so Thorpe was probably would have been. That might have been when he was like last year on Kawasaki before he went HRC. So 84 maybe.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I think.
So a long time.
So really, I would have been like 10, 11 years old.
Okay, and then how long after that did you guys decide to do the whole Motovision thing where you traveled the world filming all the races and stuff?
So that was 1990 was the first year. Yeah, 19, which is a shame because Thorpe won his last world title in '89.
Oh, okay.
We sort of, the old video sales would have been real good if we could have caught Thorpe's title in '89. But yeah, we started in 1990, so
yeah,
he had just signed to go to Kawasaki when he went to Kawasaki.
Oh, okay, so then it was your first year. I'm sure myself, and I'm sure a lot of motocross fans around the world will be testament, like me growing up with Ez being at your house and stuff. That's all we did was watch those Motovision tapes, and now it's quite crazy. So that was 15 years ago, and now when I've been injured, that's all I watched was 90s stuff, and just the characters, and Ez's, you could tell Ez got on good with everyone, and it must have just been an awesome time. So what would a GP weekend consist of with you guys doing the filming and stuff? Like, what was everyone's role?
So when we're filming, it was because back then there was 3 GPs, you'd have 125s, 250s, and 500s, and they would all be at separate venues.
Oh, so they weren't all on the same day?
No. So they'd all be at separate events completely. So I would normally do the 125 GPs because they were normally in like South America or Eastern Europe, or the 125 seemed to get pushed a little bit further away out of the way. So I'd, being the oldest, I'd get sent off to do those. Right. And then the 250 and 500 Grand Prix, I mean, if they didn't clash, Mark and Justin maybe would go with Dad, and they'd go to a GP.
Yeah.
Sometimes Justin would have to jump in with someone else as well, and he would go to a Grand Prix, and Mark would go with Dad. Yeah. I was driving, but I was at an age where I was driving. Justin, I think the first year we did it, or one of the early years, Justin wasn't even old enough to drive, so he would have to jump in with people as well.
That's pretty crazy. You guys managed to get that sort of stuff from like the hustle, it was just like, and so you'd be a cameraman on your own. You'd have a camera yourself, and you'd get all that footage on your own from a GP.
Yeah. So and it makes me laugh now when you see the guys now doing the filming. They walk around with cameras that are so tiny, and the kit they use, the things we had were massive.
Yeah,
they were massive. They were so big and heavy, and like the batteries were huge. They were like like a small car battery almost.
Okay.
On the back of the camera, the thing weighed a ton.
Right.
And then the batteries were like battery technology is getting so much better. The old ones, they would like last 10 minutes, you'd maybe change 3 batteries in one moto, and you'd have to have 2 more batteries like around your waist in a massive, like a service bum bag or something, trying to run around the track. And the plan was always to film the start, then try to run a whole lap of the track, get in a different location each lap, and then get back for the finish. To make it look as though you had like 10 cameras there. People go, "Oh, it's amazing how many cameras you have," and it's like, no, it's just one person.
That is pretty crazy,
I mean, I've never been the fittest person, but we must have been fairly fit because we used to have to run the whole moto, like around the track, up and down the hills. It's
pretty crazy. Like you saying that, I didn't realize that, but you saying that how you guys managed to capture the vibe of a race meeting, and you know, like your videos, you always like had a nice intro about, you know, what was going on, how the championship was going. It seemed like you have like how you did it. You got a lot of like cool footage from, you know, the three of you like hustling.
Yeah, well, because back then you weren't, you know, there weren't TV cameras at motocross races. Not there was some, but not a lot. You know, it was very rare that you got there and there was like the TV companies covering it. So when we filmed it, there were no special areas for us to film from. We didn't have scaffold towers to work.
So you're literally
we were literally in with the fans running around. Like the French GPs were always scary because they'd always have the chestnut fencing like right on the edge of the track almost. So you'd be walking like between the little marker pegs and the chestnut fencing. And the riders are using the edge of the track because it's the smoothest line. You then got loads of mental French fans behind you. And one GP, and I can't remember what year it was. Volan was racing 125 Grand Prix, and I was filming on the takeoff of a jump. And I was stood in front of some fans, and I was trying to explain to them I'll only be here for one lap. And Volan came down, like, I don't know if he was leading or he was at the front of the race. And as I've come down, the fans hit me in the back, and I fell forward, and his handlebars brushed my chest.
No ways.
And literally, he like he did. Luckily, didn't take, you know, he didn't crash or anything. But like I spoke to him after the race, and he was like, "Oh my god!" I turned around and hit the spectator, flipped out because I was like, it could have been so bad. Like, I could have got killed. Bolan could have been badly injured. It
could have been like the Monster Girl incident this weekend at the Supercross. Do you reckon you get into a set of those Monster Energy Lycra?
Yeah, I don't think I'd get it. She definitely looked better than me, but I might have had a bit more of an idea of where I was on the track. But yeah,
fair play. No, dude, fair play. That sounds pretty hectic. So another question. So it's a bit of a double barrel question. Who was your favorite rider to watch, as in like skill, rider, vibe? And then who was your favorite rider to hang out with? Obviously, you guys spent a lot of time in between GPs in Belgium with everyone. You know, and I know as you said, talk about a lot of parties and, you know, some cool stories and stuff. So who was your favorite rider to hang out with as a person, and who was your favorite rider to watch as a racer?
That's tough because I got to be like quite good friend. We had quite good friendships with a lot of the riders, and there were so many good riders. I mean, I always loved watching Rob Herring, you know, because I remember him coming over as a youngster, being at the first GP where he rode, and watching him, and the way he rode for me was like way ahead of the way anyone else rode a motorbike. So as a kid who grew up racing, to watch him was just like blew me away, because it was like the way he rode a bike was so different. So that what is
that, his style and stuff?
Yeah, just he was doing stuff that nobody else was doing. You know, it was way ahead of his time. You know, they talk about different riders and, you know, who's elevated the sport the most, you know, Bubba and people like that, because he did a scrub. It was like the scrub was one thing, and it was something that other people were trying to do, and he took it to another level. When I watched Rob, he was like, he's doing stuff that I've not seen anyone do. He's not taking someone and taking it a bit further. He's doing something completely new
people weren't doing,
that nobody was doing. He's actually doing something completely new, and that for me was just amazing. I love watching him ride.
It's funny you say that, because I kind of caught Robbie right at the end, and I rode with him a little bit at our track, and there's some stuff he did was like special, you know. And then I've spoken about it with Coops on cycles and stuff, and like kind of like the RWJ Kawasaki Robbie, I was like, hey, he was good. And Coops is like, no, dude, that guy before that was like unbelievable.
If you didn't see him in his prime before, he had some bad injuries that quite early in his career, which hindered him. So, but if you could like to see him in his prime, he's the only rider that we like. You go to a race and you talk to other riders, and other riders, if you said in an interview, oh, you know, so and so was got on it today, they'd be really reluctant to give him any praise.
Right.
Rob's the only person that I've ever sort of been there and we've interviewed another rider and you said, oh, Heron was on it today.
Yeah.
And other riders, and you're talking about top GP riders, would just go, they just couldn't explain it either. They'd be like, it's unbelievable. They're like, the guy is on another level. When he is like that, we don't even bother trying to race him.
Yeah.
They knew that when he was on one, don't even worry about him. Just he's in another category, so don't even bother trying to race him. And unfortunately, Rob, he was a really pure racer, and when he was on one, it was either brilliant and he'd win, or but a lot of the times he also crashed because he would never get to a 12, 15 second lead and go, I'm going to back it down.
Yeah.
He'd be so buzzing on what he was doing and how that was going that he would just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Yeah. And unfortunately, I mean, a lot of the times that he would crash and not win the race. You know, a lot of if you look in the results, you look at the results of the stats, doesn't tell the story of Rob Herring because there were so many races when he was absolutely smoking people.
Yeah.
But something then happened and he ended up DNFing or getting a result further back in the field. But to be there and watch when he was on one was just...
It's quite crazy. Like, I mean, we must be at least 30 years past now, and like the stories I hear about Robbie Herring being in the support class and being quicker than Dave Thorpe.
Yeah.
And actually last week or a few weekends ago when I was at Hawkstone International, one of the guys from Alawatas was stopped and said about Jobe jumping this double, and he was like, Robbie Herring was in the support class and he was doing it clean every lap.
Yeah, no, it is mad. It is mad.
He's a good dude as well. Like that's what makes it even better. He's a good dude as well.
Like the second part of your question is like about who's favourite guy, like socially as well. Rob was is a really lovely guy.
Yeah.
Maybe another thing that maybe held him back a little bit in his race career, he maybe didn't have that real edge about him.
Yeah.
He didn't have that nasty side to him where he would be driven maybe like some of the other guys were.
Yeah.
He was also like a really, really nice guy. But so Rob sort of ticks both boxes. But socially, there was loads of the guys at different times. We spent a lot of time with American guys because they speak the same lingo. So we hung out with Healy when we were young.
Oh, okay. That must have been pretty cool.
We were good friends with Bob Moore. We were good friends with Billy Lyles, and we moved into the house that he used to live in. And so when I was at home, he was injured. I can't remember, one time he was injured and he couldn't get around. So I basically during the week I was driving around in his car and taking him to see sponsors. And, going out for dinner, and so I spent a lot of time with quite a few of the different guys. Albie when he went in his early career.
Quick question on that subject while we're speaking about South Africans and Americans. Did Ez speak broken English to those guys as well?
No, I don't know, not so much. Normally it was with Voland. Him and Voland used to do it to each other. We used to have to stop interviews and go, "You're from America, you're from England. You both speak English. Why are you speaking broken English to each other?" And they both laughed their heads off. And then we'd start the interview, and they'd start doing it again, and it'd be like, "Oh."
It was like watching the videos and stuff. Even before I knew you guys, it was really cool to see. Your dad obviously had a good relationship with all the riders, and everyone seemed like they made time for him to talk after motos, before motos, and stuff like that, which was cool.
Dad had never had any bullshit about him. So when he spoke to people, he just spoke to them like they were normal people. Yeah. And I think the riders really loved that.
For sure.
And we were also lucky to do it at a time where social media wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So you didn't have every man and his dog sticking a camera phone in their face. They weren't worried about stuff being recorded.
Yeah.
We were one of the very few people doing what we were doing at the time, and we built a lot of trust with the riders. They knew that they would allow us to film anything, and they knew that we would never burn them by showing something that was bad.
Yeah.
And we'd even go, "Look, we got this. You're a bit pissed. Are you okay with that?" And because you had that relationship, they'd go, yeah, it's fine. It wasn't that bad. I was just a bit frustrated.
Yeah.
But they also knew we would never burn them.
Like a bit of trust.
And that's why, now, when we'd go and party with a lot of the riders in the off season and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was we had Nokia 3210s. They were good for battery life and leveling your camper on.
Plain snake.
But there was no cameras. There was no videos. If we were in a bar and someone was getting a bit sideways, no one was going to ever. But you didn't burn anyone.
I think that's what made it a different era. Is people could be themselves because there was no backlash from someone behind a keyboard on social media.
Yeah, and the racing was good, and it started to get some good sponsors in the sport. but we hadn't got to that point where everyone was trying to be all corporate. And worry about everything they did and said. So you had the element of there was really good supported teams, there was really good racing, but everyone was still acting themselves, and you got to see who the people really were.
Yeah.
Now you can see when everyone talks, they've had someone
media
giving
training
them some media training, or is it you must say this, but you mustn't say anything like that, and everything's bland. You just don't get any real character shining through. And then the odd time when someone does slip, like Hurling's is giving Pocock some stick in Portugal, or you get an incident where something comes out and everyone's falling over themselves to apologise for someone for showing some passion.
Yeah.
And okay, you use some bad language, but
so what it was.
World's still going round. No one's been hurt, and you got to see someone show some passion.
Who they actually are.
Meant. I hate the fact. I mean, I know the boys have got to earn money, so the sponsorship has got to be there in the sport. But I hate the fact that it's put all of these guys back in their boxes, because people who race motocross, they are, especially at the top level, they're a different breed, and their characters are what used to make the sport so good.
Exactly.
And they've still got those characters, like everyone says, oh, there's no characters in the sport, which I just think, no, those people are still those people.
Yeah.
They're just constantly being told not to let that out.
Not to do stuff.
So, yeah.
It is, like, even going back to, like, I always refer back to Coops, because he's one of the persons I've talked most about that era with, and he was always after a GP, like especially like an overseas GP, everyone partied together.
Yeah.
And they're getting chased by the police, and they like run away from dogs, and having the best nights. And then obviously
it was 99.9% of the time it was harmless schoolboy stuff. We weren't getting chased by the police because you'd done anything bad. Yeah. It was just silly shit, but it felt like, because you're away, we're young, we're all the lads together, we'd had a few beers, you're doing stupid stuff. And
but that also kind of creates like a brotherhood, doesn't it? Like everyone, like when you party with someone and you have a good time with someone, it's like the next time you see them, you feel a lot closer, and then you race it. Just the whole community seemed like a lot like now. From even when I was doing GPs in 05, it just seemed like, like you get back from a practice into the campo, into the truck. You come out for the next one, into the camp, into the truck, and it's not until you get to like the Destinations after party or something, when everyone gets together and has a party, where it seemed like at least once a month the guys were like together doing stuff together.
It did. I mean, when we ran the team after the video days, when we ran the team, it's later, it's another time period, but when we started, we loved it. We loved the social side of it. So like, we were one of the first people in the British Championship to have like a big hospitality area, and we'd get everyone in, and the other riders would come over to our truck because they didn't have.
There's a good vibe.
And they, with whatever food was left over, were more than happy to share with anyone and everyone who came in.
Yeah.
But then it gradually went, no, we've got to stay in our own tent, and you've got to be your own people. You've got to do your own thing, and Jan de Groot, bless you, he's gone now, but not slagging him off. But like when he ran the factory Kawasaki team, he was that one year he actually banned his mechanics from coming to our truck.
They're leaving sideways.
Because we'd be in the GP paddock, we were still like having a crack on the beers on a Friday and Saturday night, and in the end he banned his mechanics from coming to our truck, because a few of them had got sideways a few times, and that felt a bit worse for wear the next day. So
that's a nice one to own anyway, dude.
Yeah, it's fun.
So just moving back, I'm trying to keep this to 30+2, so 30 minutes. I know we could speak for hours. Last time you got emotional at a motocross race?
That one's easy. At the last time, 2017.
Was that when you ended your
so we finished the team, but also might have done the Destinations.
Okay.
So
that was pretty special. Eh? Like how long England weren't on the podium, and then Mark's first go at it in England.
Yeah. No, it was special, as a family, because we've been through quite a lot.
Yeah. Fair play. That's awesome. That's, like racing, like even as a kid and with your video days, that's at the end of it all, that's all you get left with, these memories. So, like you can die with £1 million in your bank, or you can die with memories of everything you've done in your life. You're like, I think you're a lot wealthier of a person. Yeah,
it was a mad weekend. Like the crowd, the result, the fact that we were stopping our team. It was awesome. Mental. It was really good.
Sweet. Next question. Trickiest 125 two-stroke you've ever seen from that 90s era?
I always loved the Carpi Suzukis. The Italians.
Carpi? Who was that
the Italian Suzuki team.
Who was the rider?
So Volan rode for them. Dave Strybos rode for them.
I'm trying to think. I can't. Did it have a blue seat? Was it a blue seated bike?
That might have been blue one year. but they were trick. They always sounded so good. In fact, there was a video came up on Facebook a while ago now, and I put on there, love those bikes. They were always the trickiest sounding bikes. Like I just put a comment on the Facebook thing.
Yeah.
And this guy commented back to me, thanks so much for the comment. It turns out he was the guy that owned the team.
Oh, no.
And I said, like, you know, they were always the trickiest bikes. They always sounded so good. You know, they always looked cool for the time period. And yeah, they were.
There was something special about a good two-stroke tune in those days, especially the 125 tuners. You know, like a guy like Puzar, but like Chiodi. You know, those front-running guys. They always had like a different sound. Their bikes had a different tone to them. Didn't they? Like,
I mean, my memory is not what it used to be. I don't think Carpi didn't ever win a world title, but their bikes just like, you know, there were maybe better bikes out there, but I don't know what it was for me. They always sounded just so good, and they always looked cool. I like the Suzukis. I had a bit of a soft spot for the Suzuki.
Yeah, so they were cool.
It was good.
If you could go back and relive one race weekend.
In the 90s?
In the 90s, so from like that era where you guys were filming and being involved with everyone.
That's a tough one. So I was in the. It was not in the 90s. It was 89, but I was in the track when Thorpe came over the line for his world title. So that was really cool.
What track was that at?
It was in Luxembourg. And there's some of the pictures in his book and some video clips in his in his documentary and stuff. It's like there's glimpses of me and Dad in the pictures.
Oh, okay, cool.
So like that was really cool. But that was 89. But
that must have been quite a, like, you know, the British are known for like with their soccer, soccer I guess, and rugby and stuff. They really get behind. They're quite emotional. That must have been
people in the track and trying to. I always remember them trying to. They were trying to pull his boots off and his gloves off and his goggles off him, and like literally trying to like grab all his kit off him. And all I remember is because I'm not that I don't think I thought about being a mechanic then, but I just remember looking at the bike and Keith, his dad, had the bike.
Yeah.
The Colonel, he had the bike and like he's being buffeted all around the place, and I remember just like looking at the bike, like, oh my god, it's like stood right next to it, and he was trying to get it out from the people. They'd lifted Dave up, and it was that was mental. That was like as a young kid.
As a kid,
I was like 14. So
crazy that obviously like you still go watch races and Dave Thorpe still runs the team, you know, like all this time later.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
But in terms of the 90s, reliving a memory in the 90s, you probably, again, just because of the result and the atmosphere and the buzz and the history involved in it and everything, was the 94 Desnations
when England won
the Team GB won the.
Who was that, Joe? Nickel.
You can't say England. You love Mark Jones, and
dude, I've just asked Mark.
Mark Jones kicking your ass because
I've just been offered a deal to ride for Wales at the. So I said it was Wales, England, Ireland, South Africa.
Mate, honestly, I know these rugby players change nationality to play for different teams, but I've never known anyone. They're all amateurs compared to you.
Jeez. So that was Nickel, Robbie, and Malin.
Nickel on a 500 Honda, which he'd probably been desperate to ride all those years that he was riding KTMs and Kawasaki's in the 500 GPs.
Yeah.
He got to use they managed to get a factory 500 Honda.
Okay.
Because they were still kicking around at that time.
Oh, nice.
So he got to ride a very, or at least a kitted one. And then Robbie was on 250 Kawasaki for RWJ for Colin Reid. And that was good for like some and like that. And again, going back to people like Colin.
Yeah.
Colin, who he's been out of sport for a while now. A lot of people wouldn't remember him, but he was a really good guy. And his wife Val, they did so much in terms of sponsoring
invested
people,
a lot into the sport.
Money and to see them have a moment like the 94 Destinations was really special.
It doesn't get much more
for the individuals in it. And then Mailer obviously had an absolute stormer on the 175. Sorry, the 125.
Was he riding for Dixon?
we always give Dixon and Mailer shit on that, but no, he rode amazing as well.
Yeah,
he was really good on the little one. So yeah, it was good.
You do get the emotion attached to that race, don't you? Especially like if you've got a country that's like got a chance at winning.
Oh, there's like it was mad. Like, and again, I think I can't remember if it was the GP. I'm pretty sure it was the Desnations. we like went into the beer tent, and Jason Higgs's dad was up, stood on the table, leading all the fans in, because he played football, so he knew like the old songs and the chants, and he was up on the table like cheering and shouting, getting all the fans singing songs and really getting into it. I always remember it. That was class.
Fair play. Right, we've kind of touched on, I was going to ask you a question, the biggest difference between the 90s and current GP. We answered that a bit earlier. So last question, so in your opinion, from that 90s era, who would be the best United Kingdom based rider, 125, 250, 500?
The best UK rider out of the whole 90s.
And don't say Robbie Herring on all three.
In any class, no.
No, in each class. So like you must choose a 125, a 250, and a 500 rider.
So Mailer went back into the 125 class and did really good, racing Tortelli and those boys, and had some mega results. And there's Nations in '94. Yeah, but then Dobby won his title in the 2000s, didn't he? So that was later. So you'd have to probably say Mailer on the 125 during the 90s, 250. 250 with a lot of good riders, obviously. Gordy had his moments. Herring had his moments. Like I'll throw it out there. Like, so one of the most impressive things for me was Kurt getting off of the 500s and going back to the 250s.
Okay. And was that on KTM when he was on KTM?
He came off of KTM and came back and rode Honda. He was Rob Herring's teammate on Honda UK. And I'm sure I wouldn't be the only one, and I'd tell him it to his face as well. And I have said to Thorpe as well, I don't believe that Thorpe, you could have done this.
Yeah.
Because Kurt came down from the 500s into the 250s against the new generation that was coming through.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he'd be able to do it. I thought when he did it,
was that the year's number 4, where it was RC on the
year? I think that was the year after.
Oh, okay.
So he came back, and he came back in, and he was really, really competitive. And I think Billy Lyles did it at the same time, and I thought Billy's style would translate better to a 250.
Yeah.
Kurt smoked him, and also shocked. Like, I think he really showed a lot. He made him. If people were honest, I would got to say this.
He was always like a bridesmaid. Yeah, but World Championship level to be like a bridesmaid at World Championship level.
He always worked so hard, and to see him come back and do that in that 250 class, I was like, that's fair play. And the older I get, that when I think the more impressive it is to me.
Yeah.
I've got a good Kurt story. You got time for a Kurt story?
Yeah, go for it, dude.
So when he went 250s, so the opening round was always Talavera in Spain.
Yeah.
So we got a mate, Mark Hardesty, Hot Tub.
Yeah, Hot Tub. Yeah.
So we went out in a bar in Spain, and Mark Hot Tub's got the same sort of. He had like the curly hair, a little bit of a mullet going on. So he had the Kurt haircut. And we went out in a bar in Spain, and we got absolutely written off, like completely written off. And we spent the whole night telling everyone in the bar that Hot Tub was Kurt Nicholl. and he was doing shots and dirty pints, and we walked out into the car park. He was so drunk he walked over someone's car. He was trying to drive out of the car park.
Yeah.
All these people are outside cheering and shouting, and we're going, "Yeah, it's Kurt Nicholl. Watch him tomorrow."
Yeah.
And it's funny because we told Kurt the story, and he loved it. And he said, "I thought I had more people cheering for me that day." And I said, "Mate, they would have thought you were a legend if they saw you at midnight on Saturday night, and you went. I think you went and podium the next day."
Fair play.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, Hot Tub.
It was funny. Coops says, like we talked about Kurt and stuff, and he would be like, "Dude, it was insane." Like, say you go to a track where there's a huge jump, and there'd be like, 8 or 9 guys doing the jump, and Kurt would never do the jump. And you get back and look at the lap time, and the dude was always like top 3. Like he said, his corner speed was just another level.
That's the old adage, isn't it? When he's corners, jumps for show and corners for the dough. Kurt, like if Kurt, we've been at races before, and Kurt's like over protesting, trying to get sections taken out because that's Supercross, that's not Grand Prix Motocross, but he did, and he's a great guy as well. At the races, he had to take it. He'd be the first one to admit, like he had to take it way more serious. He couldn't be like all laid back and chilled and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people used to take him the wrong way and think he wasn't such a nice guy or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you saw him away from the track, like we stayed with his family down in France, they had a place down in south of France. They invited us there, and like socially, a brilliant guy.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like amazing.
Away
like,
from the track.
Completely different person away from the track.
Yeah.
Like he got a bad press because he had like obviously Thorpe he was competing against for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And then he had that persona at the track where he was all business. So
Yeah.
he got a bit of a bad rep from some people, but yeah,
He was
like,
a good dude.
really good guy. Yeah, really.
And
good
obviously,
guy.
like a guy that loves riding bikes because to this day,
yeah,
like on the weekly, dude,
it's still ripping around pretty good.
Fair play. I really like. I like that in a person. You know, like you get a lot of people that finish professionally and they never touch a bike again, and then you get people that really love riding bikes.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a hobby. Goes back to being a hobby once they're done.
Yeah.
500 rider. Who would you say is the best?
In the 90s. The British 500, the British riders in the 90s in 500s, it was sort of white on it.
There was like what's his name? Malin was pretty decent on a 500.
Yeah, so he went back
young.
to 500 with RWJ on a Honda, I think it was, but he ended up getting injured and didn't really race that much.
But didn't he start off on a 500 at 17 and doing GPs?
Oh yeah, he would have done, yeah, really early. So that was cool when he was 17 and. Because he's only a year older than me, so to see him doing that at GPs, and he's like a little bit older than me, I was like,
pretty
what?
special, yeah. Especially on a 500 at that age.
Leading Grand Prix and stuff. There's a few guys that did alright in 500s at that era. But
Warren Edwards and all those kind of guys used to ride 500s.
Warren raced Action Workshop Honda with Billy Lyles, his teammate, and Watley. Watley was doing 500 GPs then. But he had all the, early 90s, you had like Wheeler and Jared Smith, and there was a load of them, load of the guys that were doing them. But
and was that class
in terms of performance, standout performance? I mean, Kurt was still. DT had a bit of a nightmare when he went Kawasaki in 1990, and then so Kurt was sort of the main guy in the 500 class in the early 90s. Then he went back to 250. Then he stepped back up he went 360 and stuff, but that was later in the 90s. So yeah, Kurt was the main 500 guy in the 90s.
Was the 500 class at that time, was it was it legit, or was it a bit like how we had the MX3 championship in the European?
Unfortunately, yeah, the early years of the 500 class, and it's not, you still had good riders in the class. So like I would never discredit any of the big guys who won a world title.
Oh no, you never would, because
there were still good riders in that class,
But was the 250 class was the main?
The depth just wasn't there like it had been during the 80s. In the 90s, the depth of talent thinned out really quickly in the 500s.
Okay, cool. And then just to finish off, you can either answer or pass. Just a quick 5-rider face-off.
Yeah.
So would you go Stefan Everts or Sebastian Tortelli?
Mate.
So this is not on their personal. This is on how they ride and as athletes and racers. You can pass if you want.
No, I won't pass. Stefan.
Stefan, yeah.
Stefan. Tortelli was impressive, but he was a bulldog. He was a bit of an animal. Stefan technically was just superb and could ride anything from the little bikes all the way to the big bikes.
Yeah.
4 strokes, 2 strokes.
Yeah, it's rounded.
Look how many titles he won.
And eras he raced in different eras as well. And
you can say, but he didn't go to America. He did in his early career. He went over and did some supercrosses when he was on Suzuki, and he could have easily gone over and done that.
Yeah,
he chose to, make the most of his career in Europe. But yeah, I'd choose Stefan over Tortelli.
Cool. So I'm going to ask this question. I'm thinking 1 to 5s. Puzar Chiodi.
Tough one because both really, really good guys.
Yeah, awesome
really good guys. Like both of them, but I get on really well with Kiko.
Yeah,
and he was a class rider on it. Really, really good.
Yeah,
125 rider. So I'd go Kiko.
Sweet. This is a tough one. So Malin or Dob? This might be a pass one.
Both going to give me a hard time if I say one or the other. I'm going to go Dob because he won a world title.
Yeah. So Belgium, Bevoots or Ramon, because like the reason I put that was they were obviously Ramon won world championships, but they both kind of like they're very similar, aren't they? Like with the Suzuki connection, they're always like being second to like a certain person.
Again, I'd go Bevoots. I think it was hard. Very hard for him because he came up against some absolute legends.
But it's funny that, like, thinking about that question, both of those guys were second to Stefan a lot.
Yeah.
From 2 different eras, which is quite impressive.
I'd go Bevoots again. Really nice guy. Really good guy, and he had. I think one year he was leading the title, and something happened. Something was something happened.
He was the kind of guy that was there like every
one year
weekend.
and something happened. Yeah, such a nice guy. Again, like someone who worked so hard but came up against an absolute.
Like, was just in a generation.
Once in a generation rider like Stefan. So yeah, Marnik's a good guy.
Cool. And last question: Greg Albertine or Grant Langston?
I'll be honest, I was mates with Albie in the early days, but he let himself down a little bit in my eyes over a couple of things. I spent some time with Grant and his dad. I would go Langston because of his, he won world title over here, and then he went over and did good in America. Yeah,
it's pretty impressive what Grant's done.
Grant kept it a little bit more real for me, so I'm going Grant.
You think Grant came from winning South African nationals to winning a 125 World Championship to winning regional Supercross championships to winning 125 national championships to the Premier?
Yeah.
The only thing he didn't win was an outdoor championship, and his career got shortened with an eye injury. So
yeah, no, I'd go Grant. I mean, Greg got a lot of he had those 3 world titles in a row, which was impressive. You got to be in it to win it. But Stefan lost his spleen one year. He started the year on Kawasaki and had something like 4 DNFs in the first 6 races and stuff.
Yeah,
and was still in there having a shout with the championship. Not Greg still had to win it, but I'll go Langston.
Fair play. Thanks, G. Thanks for your time, guys. Thanks for watching if you watched. And so what I'm going to plan to do, I'm not going to do a lot of these. I'm probably going to do 4. I've got one planned with Robbie Herring and Paul Cooper at the same time, Neil Prince and Mark Jones. So if you guys like it, leave a like. Maybe if it goes well, we might do more. So leave in the comments if you think who you'd like to see an interview with from that 90s motocross era.
Mate, I like the way you've done that. You set the bar low with me, so that you can only go up with those other guys.
No, but dude, it's something like it's honestly something like when I used to sit with Ez at night, and even Justin used to come home because Justin stayed at the house as well.
Yeah.
And dude, I was mesmerized by the stories. And at the start, I was thinking, yeah, whatever. But then you realize that you guys did actually live that time. So the insight that you guys can give is probably more than any racer can give because you've been around so many different races. You've seen the racing from so many different angles.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, we grew up racing, watching Grand Prix, then doing the videos, then running our own team. Like Mark running Des Nations, working in the industry. We've had quite a broad spectrum of experience across it. So